Welcome to today's Water Safety Heroes event. I think I'm going to wear my life jacket today. This model is actually good for like jet skiing or water skiing, so I'm hoping to maybe get an invite out on one of these boats for a good ski. It has a Type 1, so it'll float you up, face up, should you have that high-speed crash. My name is Tony Gomez, and I manage your violence and injury prevention program for Public Health, Seattle and King County. And I also have the pleasure of serving as your co-chair of the statewide drowning prevention network, along with Tizzy Bennett of Seattle Children's Hospital. You know, this is the kind of day we love here in the Northwest. So I'm glad we're able to do this outside here in the sunshine versus under that picnic shelter where we often have to do these kinds of things even in July. One of the discussions we've had is in planning this is kind of why now? Since one of the rescues occurred at Mother's Day and one of the rescues occurred at the very end of last summer. So we've routinely done water safety events as part of our statewide April Pools Day. And so we typically do that in April, but we just haven't been able to pull off kind of the hero parts of that event. And so this Coolon beach rescue that you're going to hear about in a little bit occurred on Mother's Day, so we would have, or the day before Mother's Day, so we would have missed April Pools Day anyway. And then the Lake Sammamish event that will be recognizing the two young men who did the save there. Didn't learn about that until the very end of summer, and as often happens, it kind of summer came and went so fast, and we're into the rainy weather, and we didn't fully get a chance to investigate it until actually fairly recently. So that's why this makes this the perfect day for this event to happen, and the fact you all were able to make it is proof of that. So thanks for attending. I need to quickly thank a few people who helped make this happen and come together so quickly. First, this includes the wonderful City of Renton employees who work so hard to make this occur, to do the setup, and actually do great day in, day out work managing this lifeguarded beach, the Henry Moses Pool, and their other facilities. So I'm going to start with Terry Higashiyama, the Director of Community Services. Give Terry a hand, please. There, Terry, thank you. And Battalion Chiefs Greg Hartman and John Lecoq from the Renton Fire Department, as well as Chief Mark Peterson. Let's give them our thanks as well. Thanks to Mayor Dennis Law, who's going to welcome us in a second here. And thanks also to Council Member Reagan Dunn, whose district we're in right now. So I'd like to thank them as well. From our King County Sheriff's Office, I need to recognize Sergeant Jim Knaus, and actually I want to also include Sergeant Jim Robarge with Mercer Island Patrol in there, and the others in the Marine Patrol Unit. They are out there on the waters, they're doing rescues in the rivers, they're putting their lives at risk oftentimes at great peril to either recover bodies or to do rescues and other life-saving situations. So just thank you guys for the great work you do day in, day out. Thanks also to Sergeant Cindy West and the many others in the Sheriff's Office who helped with making this happen. I also want to thank Karina Wells, Ian Fersman, and Patrick Finnegan. And just kind of note that I want to thank Karina's boss, Carolyn Sharpenberg of Apple One Employment Services, for allowing Karina to be here today. And Ian and Patrick are courtesy here of their parents. And lastly, I'd like to thank Ren Holland, our Injury Prevention Program, University of Washington master's student, who's been working with us this last couple of years and helped do a lot of the coordination and kind of pull together the data on this event. So let's give all those folks a round. I need to mention that, you know, from a public health point of view, swimming and water recreation is just a great activity. You know, they help keep us fit physically and mentally. You know, and as these summers get warmer, it's just great to be able to go to a beach or a pool and cool off. So swimming, paddleboarding, all that is just fabulous. But we need to keep safety in mind during this season, which gets us to thinking about the importance of this event. Last year in King County, 24 people died by drowning. And unfortunately, those victims did not have a hero to save them like the ones we are honoring today. 2/3 of those drownings happened in open water, such as rivers, lakes, and Puget Sound. We are in the time of year where it's the greatest risk of danger. Last year, July and August accounted for 9 deaths alone, which is nearly 40% of our total. So we'll all want to step up our vigilance and efforts to make drowning prevention a priority. So we're going to hear some great water safety tips from our experts and speakers, including Sheriff Urquhart and others. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Dennis Law.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Renton. We couldn't have picked a nicer day for this special recognition, and I too want to thank our city folks, our Parks Department, and other people that have been working not only to keep this park one of the most attractive and popular parks in King County, but also a safe place to be. I wanted to recognize and thank the Marine patrols that we have here from King County and Mercer Island. Mercer Island is our provider of marine services, and we have our own dive team here that do great work in trying to prevent injuries and deaths that occur on the waterways. But we're here today to honor 3 people who took it upon themselves to get involved. And I think, as Tony was explaining, the only way that lives are going to be saved is if people take action and get involved, like the 3 people that we're recognizing today. The unfortunate reality is we don't have firefighters and police officers available to respond to every single incident that takes place. And without quick action by citizens that are willing to get involved, people's lives will be lost. And I think that we're fortunate here that we have somebody who survived thanks to the efforts of Karina Wells, who you'll be meeting in just a couple of minutes. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. And at this time, I'd like to introduce King County Council Member Reagan Dunn.
Thanks, Mayor Law, and it is a great privilege to be here today on this beautiful day in Renton. My name is Reagan Dunn. I represent this portion of the county on the King County Council from here to Snoqualmie Pass and down past Enumclaw, and grew up in this area boating and fishing and on the rivers, and know what a threat they can be to life and safety. And we're here today to honor 3 individuals who leapt into action when others' lives depended on it. Karina, Ian, and John deserve our honor and respect for their selfless acts of bravery on the water to save 3 of our local residents' lives. They set a standard for the rest of us to follow in looking out for each other and being ready to help a fellow citizen when that moment of emergency calls. Rescues like this are a good reminder that water can turn dangerous sometimes, and it can be very quick when it happens. There's things we can do, and you'll hear more about them to make sure that we are safe. Wear a life jacket when you're on the river and other open waters. Now in this county, if you're on a river in inner tube, you're required to wear a life jacket. Choose a lifeguarded beach or pool for swimming. And finally, and probably most importantly, don't mix alcohol with water activities. Folks, we've got some great heroes here that were helpful. We deserve to honor them, Karina, Ian, and John, and I'm honored to be here. Turn it back over.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our Fire Chief, Mark Peterson.
Well, I'd like to introduce to you Karina Wells, who on May 11th, lost my speaking points. Anyway, on May 11th, her life kind of changed a little bit. She was down here with the park with her family when a man became distressed. Without even thinking of her own safety, Karina jumped into the water to save this individual. She was yelling for help to have people help her, and finally somebody threw her a life ring to be able to get this person out of the water. That was a hard thing to do. This person was much larger than Karina was. She still maintained her flotation and tried to move this person out of the water. And Karina, I'd like to thank you for being a hero that day, and you made a difference in that man's life. He's alive today. He is a victim of a near drowning. He spent some time at Harborview for treatment, but without Karina's involvement, that gentleman may not have been here today. So Karina, thank you very much. Karina. Mr. Mayor, I'd like you to give Karina a certificate of Lifesaver certificate from the City of Renton for her involvement today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few things?
I would like to add that Mr. Curtis Boatwright, the man that I saved, he was actually saving or trying to save the lives of 2 children who had jumped in the water pretending to drown. And because of that, he almost lost his life. I think that it's extremely important. I have children myself, that if you have children, that you do not leave them unattended in the water, and that you put their safety first at all times. As well as, like they said, nobody was willing to help me. If you do see somebody that is in need, it really shouldn't matter. If you can help make a difference in that person and save their life, you should always be willing to help, whether you know the person or not. So I just really wanted to emphasize, most importantly, keep an eye on your children and make sure that your children are safe. Never goof around and pretend to be drowning or in danger when you're not. And if you do see somebody who needs help, help them. It makes a difference.
Let's do a photo with you and the sheriff and Councilmember Dunn as well. Do some pictures here now.
Oh, he's winning. Well dressed and everything.
Good. All right, everybody get a photo? All right, thanks, Chief. Thank you so much. Such a great story. I just love hearing it every time. And that's kind of what also has struck me about these 3 stories today. Is that, I've been doing this for 30 years, looking at drowning prevention for 25, and these 2 safe situations were just some of the best I've ever heard and seen. Pleased to introduce Sheriff John Urquhart. It's great to have Sheriff John back in charge of sorts. He understands traffic safety, water safety, family safety. So it is a pleasure to introduce Sheriff Urquhart.
Well, good morning, I guess it still is. It's great to be here today. This is one of the few really fun things that I get to do, so I couldn't be happier. Fellas, why don't you come up here? Thank you, Tony. I'm pleased to be here to recognize 2 outstanding heroes who put their own safety concerns aside to show the courage to save others in peril. Coming to rescue someone is not for the faint of heart, and many can't do what these 2 gentlemen did. Now, I'm a police officer, been a police officer for a long time. My partner's over here. We get paid to run towards the gunfire. Our firefighter brothers and sisters, they get paid to run towards the flames. These gentlemen don't get paid to do that, and yet they did it anyway, and that's just amazing. Now, this is Ian Fursman and Patrick Finnegan. They're cousins, and I'm pretty sure they're also Irish. They got a little Irish blood in them. What do you think? I used to be a detective. Well, these 2 guys were at Tibbetts Beach at Lake Sammamish State Park last August. Park was busy, full of swimmers, and lots of other activity in the water. There's a beach there, but it doesn't have any lifeguards. That's very unfortunate. These two young men saw a group of teenagers also swimming in the same area where they were. And 2 of the teenagers were showing signs of trouble. Basically, they were drowning. A boy and a girl, teenage boy and a teenage girl. Their friends swam toward shore and were calling for help. Many heard the cries for help, including one adult who was nearby on a paddleboard, but he headed the other way and didn't respond to help out. But our 2 brave citizens, our heroes, assessed the situation and realized this was life or death. Ian and Patrick swam deeper out into the water and helped one of the drowning victims to shore. That was the girl. Then they returned to help the other victim, who by now had slipped underneath the water and couldn't be seen. Ian and Patrick found him under about 6 feet of water. Patrick did the initial pulling the victim to the surface, and then the two of them finished pulling the victim into the shore. The victim, the 17-year-old, however, was not doing very well and aspirated a lot of water. Patrick CPR certified and assessed whether the victim needed CPR or not. Fortunately, he did not. He threw up a bunch of water and then regained consciousness. By the time the EMTs had arrived, both swimmers were safely out of the water and doing okay, though there was a lot of crying and hysteria among their friends. The worst of the victims was transported to the hospital and released in fine shape and sent home, thanks to Patrick and Ian. As a King County Sheriff, I am very pleased to present our Meritorious Service Award to Ian Fursman and Patrick Finnegan for their life-saving actions taken at Lake Sammamish State Park. And let me read what it says here. If I can get it open. On behalf of the King County Sheriff's Office and the State of Washington Drowning Prevention Network, we thank you for your heroic and meritorious effort for the saving of 2 lives and preventing their drowning. You have made a significant contribution to improving the health and safety of our community. You boys want to say something here? Sure. Oh, sure.
I just want to say how important it is to remain calm, and the situations don't always look like they are in the movies. Fortunately, one did, so that got our attention, and the other one wasn't so obvious. And it's also very important to be CPR certified if needed in this situation.
Ian?
I just want to say thank you for the recognition, and it's also important to make sure you take all safety precautions. Even if the water seems like a fun activity, it can turn dangerous in just seconds.
One last thing before I turn this back over to Tony. There's a lot of summer left. So these recent events remind us that we need to be even more water safety aware. Swim at lifeguarded beaches and pools whenever possible. Many of our rivers are still running very, very cold. They're fast, they're deep, and they're deadly. Sometimes the best decision is to stay out of the water. Always wear a Coast Guard approved life jacket, like Tony's doing over here, when swimming or in open water, such as our lakes or rivers or Puget Sound. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, Lake Sammamish State Park used to have lifeguards, but with budget cuts, we've lost those. With the numerous drowning deaths and close calls, we need to figure out a way to ask our legislature to work together to figure out a way to restore this important service. It's incumbent upon all of the elected leaders here today to work with the legislature to push the legislature to put lifeguards back. They save lives because Ian and Patrick can't be there all the time when we need them. Thank you. How about a photo op over here, fellas?
Council member, fire chief, mayor, why don't you get you in there on all this? I want to get it over up here, certificate.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Very good.